True or false? Jack Sparrow has antisocial personality disorder. Jack Sparrow lacks an internal moral compass. Jack Sparrow has a lack of concern for the feelings, needs, and suffering of others. Jack Sparrow is impulsive, often going into things without a plan. I think most Pirates of the Caribbean fans can look at those statements and know they're all false, that they're all ridiculous claims.
Well spoke, listen to the tool.
It irritates me that some people honestly believe any of that. Those claims all come from a singular video made by Cinema Therapy, where they unpack Jack Sparrow from a psychologist's perspective.
What would you do to help this man? Is he helpable?
It's hard. It comes down to what you value, right? So, for example, I'm somebody who values relationships and I value integrity. So, for example, I'm somebody who values relationships and I value integrity.
If you think those claims are ridiculous, I haven't even mentioned their most absurd claims yet. I've touched on this video by Cinema Therapy before. When I first watched it, it got under my skin. It bugged me. I hated seeing a video do so well that completely misrepresents Jack Sparrow as a character. That these guys could be shaping the way some of their impressionable viewers think about Jack Sparrow. But now, I find the video quite funny, and even ironic, if that's the right word. Maybe not. Because, to me, Jack Sparrow is none of the things that Cinema Therapy stated. At least not in such black and white terms. But, in universe, Jack Sparrow does try to appear as someone who is all those things.
So that's the reason for all the...
Jack Sparrow wants to appear as someone with a plethora of disorders, as someone who is indifferent towards the well-being of others, that he's impulsive and doesn't think things through. Jack projects a distorted version of himself to the outside world, a false persona. He uses deception as a tool to better position himself for success. So it is quite funny that Jack Sparrow has even managed to deceive a real life psychologist. I think being a psychologist likely inhibits how you view Jack Sparrow, because your brain has been trained to ping at the sign of any disorder or mental illness. You probably get more drawn into Jack's deception than a non-psychologist would. So I'll cut Cinema Therapy some slack here. No hate. I just have to give my 2 cents. So, as a regular person, a non-psychologist, just a film fan, here's Jack Sparrow as I see him.
You actually were telling the truth. I do that quite a lot. Yet people are always surprised.
I had planned to divide this video into 3 sections. Firstly, my own understanding of Jack Sparrow, then Cinema Therapy's understanding of Jack Sparrow, and then finally there was Disney's understanding of Jack Sparrow. But after a few drafts, I think it's for the best that I be able to give immediate comparisons on the different viewpoints. So if I'm using language like Jack is, that's my viewpoint, and if I'm saying Jack is not or he does not, I'm making reference to something said or implied by either Cinema Therapy or Disney themselves. What I mean when I say Disney in this case is anyone from and in between Jerry Bruckheimer, Pirates of the Caribbean's lead producer, and Disney CEO. I can better support my counterclaims by making immediate comparisons.
You're a diamond, mate.
Cinema Therapy's main claim is that Jack Sparrow has antisocial personality disorder, defining it as someone with little regard for morality or the rights and feelings of other people.
He starts as a side character. He
Sure.
becomes a protagonist. I would diagnose him with antisocial personality disorder, which is usually something that you would diagnose a villain with, like just how...
Some of the points they made are truly crazy. They so often miss the nuance of Jack's character, or they're just blatantly ignorant in an attempt to cram Jack into that antisocial box. And it's worth noting, like me, their understanding of Jack Sparrow mainly stems from Pirates 1, 2, and 3. They only briefly touch on Pirates 4 and 5, which is pretty scary. You'd assume, by the way they speak about Jack Sparrow, that they're speaking based solely on Pirates 5. But nope. About 80% of their video is just Pirates 1, 2, and 3. And as for Disney, Disney made Pirates of the Caribbean 5, the movie that destroyed Jack Sparrow, by fundamentally misunderstanding why people liked him in the first place.
Are you sure you're the Jack Sparrow? No, it can't be.
For the sake of brevity, and to avoid too much repetition, I'm going to be abbreviating cinema therapy with CT, and anti-social personality disorder with ASPD. When it comes to my understanding of Jack Sparrow, I disregard anything outside of Pirates 1, 2, or 3, because I believe Pirates 4 does Jack no favors in terms of his characterization. It may as well not exist. It adds nothing. And Pirates 5 actively opposes most of what we know about Jack Sparrow. It's a total mischaracterization. But we'll get to Pirates 5 in greater detail later on.
I'll have to be frank, Hector. You are very, very ugly.
I think it's made clear as day in Pirates 1, 2, and 3 that Jack Sparrow is a highly intelligent person, but that his intelligence doesn't lie in areas typically associated with intelligence, like mathematics, physics, engineering, things of that ilk, but that Jack's intelligence lies in his understanding of the world he lives in, and his understanding of people, human behavior. Jack knows what humans want, he knows what motivates people, what influences them, and he can practically read people's thoughts based off of their body language. He can see straight through people. He can see your envy, your longing, your resentment, your frustration. Whatever it is, there's no hiding.
My tremendous intuitive sense of the female creature informs me that you are troubled.
Jack essentially profiles people and treats them like pieces on a chessboard, assigning them to whatever piece best suits. Jack knows if you're a pawn, rook, or queen, and he'll treat you accordingly. Jack Sparrow's greatest strength is his ability as a strategist. He was the driving force in the defeat of Davy Jones and Cutler Beckett, the grand architect of their ruining.
If you wish to see its grand architect, look to your left.
Jack did not directly lead the charge, like a military leader going into war with the troops. Jack is far more discreet in the way he operates. He's a puppet master, but what makes him so effective is he'll pull your strings and still have you thinking you're moving freely, that your choices and actions are your own.
Why aren't we doing what Mr. Sparrow said we should do?
Because it was Mr. Sparrow who said it.
Instead of being a chess piece on the board himself, he steps out of the game and instead simply provides a little influence. Instead of controlling the actions of one piece, he can manipulate the actions of 32 pieces. Jack envisions how he wants the game to play out. He sees what has to happen, what position on the board certain pieces need to be in, and he has the ability to influence and manipulate in order to get those pieces into position. Pieces being people in this analogy, if you require reminding.
I know that. Don't think I don't.
Everyone in the final battle of Pirates 3 is there because Jack Sparrow wants them there. He has guided them all there, but no one else sees it that way. Every single person thinks their own choices are what brought them there, when really, their choices were placed in their minds by Jack Sparrow, Inception style. Another indicator of Jack's high intelligence is the accuracy of his foresight. Before Jack does anything of significance, he runs a simulation in his head. He simulates his intended actions and thusly the anticipated actions of all other parties. If the simulation ends in a place he isn't satisfied with, he either alters his actions or influences and manipulates the actions of his opposition until the simulation does end in a place he's satisfied with. This doesn't always work out for him. It's not a surefire 100% guarantee. Sometimes Jack does get things wrong. There are things he didn't account for. Things he couldn't possibly have accounted for. And that forces him into a position of improvisation. Think of it like someone following a map, where a chunk of road suddenly vanishes, but they see where the road ends and where it picks back up again. He does find himself on uncharted roads at times, but he is also a gifted improviser, and can usually get back on course.
And that was without even a single drop of rum.
He uses his understanding of human behavior to accurately anticipate the moves of opposing parties, and even to manipulate them, whether it's Norrington, Barbossa, Davy Jones, or Cutler Beckett. Plenty of men can beat Jack in one-on-one combat, and he knows it. He knows that isn't his path to get to the top. Some men can walk that path and have success, but Jack has the understanding and the humility to know it's not a path he should tread. Jack constantly uses Elizabeth to set Norrington off his course. Jack will play around with Barbossa's ego, either feeding into it or picking away at it. He plays into Jones's cruelty. He leverages Beckett's insecurity.
Right by the head. A really big one.
CT suggests people like Jack Sparrow are so used to things panning out their way. I agree with this, but not in the way CT meant it. That statement was made as if Jack doesn't work towards his goals, that the spoils of victory just fall into his lap. We've established that that isn't true, but Jack does have a level of confidence that sometimes pushes into arrogance. He is used to things panning out his way, because he works hard, and he has had great success with this new methodology he's developed. It's working for him, but don't for 1 second think his successes come to him gift-wrapped and hand-delivered.
What's Jack Sparrow's doing?
Jack is a very calculated man. He accounts for micro-adjustments. The details matter to him. I'll agree with CT that Jack is reckless, but I firmly disagree on the charge of impulsivity, that Jack often goes into things without a plan.
You've been planning this from the beginning. Ever since you learned my name. Yeah.
I don't understand how anyone can watch these movies and think Jack isn't always actively thinking 10 steps ahead. Yes, sometimes Jack gets it wrong. Things go off plan, and he is forced to act impulsively, where he is forced to act in the spur of the moment, without a plan, to try get back on track. But that doesn't mean he is generally impulsive. He prefers to avoid uncertainty. Jack knows if he is to have any success in life, he needs to devise a methodology that will help him get around obstacles such as Davy Jones or Cutler Beckett. This is where we see Jack use deceit as a tool. Knowing how valuable it is to be able to read people, Jack makes himself unreadable. Jack hides his true self. He has created a false exterior around himself, a false persona. As a viewer, you very rarely see through the cracks, and as a character within the Pirates of the Caribbean universe, it's even more rare, and that's by design. Jack relies on deception to get people to lower their guard, and to get them to underestimate him. That's a key part of his strategy. Most of his victories hinge on his opposition underestimating him.
And I half expected it to be made of wood.
Most of the time, he presents as somebody who is flamboyant in manner, eccentric, like someone who doesn't take things too seriously. He has fun with the role he plays. He likes seeing how far he can push it. Perhaps it's a coping mechanism he employs to make himself feel better about having to hide his true self. If he has to play a character to live the life he wants and to attain the things he wants, he may as well have fun with it.
I'm here to find the man I love.
I'm deeply flattered, son, but my first and only love is the sea.
Because Jack very rarely breaks character, most people see him as a joke, and he's quite alright with that, because it gets him what he wants. Most pirates captured by the Royal Navy would be unceremoniously imprisoned and hung from the noose shortly thereafter. But notice how Norrington and his men poke fun at Jack. They can't help but to share a chuckle at his expense. They immediately shift from soldiers of the Royal Navy to what's more reminiscent of school bullies. They don't take him seriously, and he outwits them time and time again because of it, until eventually he's sailing away on one of the Navy's prize ships, leaving them with their jaws hanging loose, like a bunch of idiots.
I must admit, Jack, I thought I had you figured. It turns out you're a hard man to predict.
CT says Jack Sparrow doesn't follow through with what he says he's going to do. Now this one's astonishing. For years, Jack saved a singular bullet with the intent of using it on one man, and one man alone. You see, it's one thing when Jack tells someone else what he's going to do, because as we've established, Jack might just be floating something out there in an attempt to manipulate someone, or a group of people. Like when he gave Norrington advice in Pirates 1 about how to deal with Barbossa. Actual good advice. Knowing Norrington would then ignore said advice, ultimately ending up doing exactly what Jack really wanted anyway. But when Jack sets a goal for himself, it's because he thinks it's attainable. When he tells himself he's going to do something, he's going to do it. And surprisingly, a lot of the promises Jack makes, he actually does hold up his end. He told 2 naval officers he intended to commandeer the Interceptor, right to their faces. And that's exactly what he did.
So we're all men of our word, really. Except for Elizabeth, who is in fact a woman.
As far as morality goes, we need to get over the fact that he's a pirate. Just because he's immoral in certain aspects doesn't mean he is generally immoral. Everyone is immoral to some degree. Jack Sparrow just more than most. That said, we've seen plenty of common folk commit crimes in this world. Morality is a spectrum. It's not a 50-50, you're either moral or immoral kind of thing.
Put in a Tortuga, and we made a nice bit of profit there. Off the books, of course.
What's more immoral? A dockmaster accepting a bribe and allowing a strange man entry into a populated area without documentation and without knowing his intentions? Or that same strange man stealing a small pouch of coins from said dockmaster?
Of the two of us, I am the only one who hasn't committed mutiny.
CT expands on that even more by suggesting that Jack doesn't care about legal or ethical behavior, that he lacks an internal moral compass relative to lawful or socially ethical behavior. Jack's pirating activities aside, he has a fairly solid sense of morality. To use the words little regard for morality, that's far too extreme. Yes, Jack is no Steve Rogers. He's not God's righteous man. He's probably been responsible for the deaths of many men undeserving of that fate, when plundering merchant ships and whatnot. But like with most people, it bothers him when good people are wronged, and it bothers him when bad people are rewarded for their badness. Jack Sparrow is a criminal, but he's not a bad person. He isn't needlessly cruel. He doesn't needlessly take life. He doesn't take pleasure in senseless killing. He doesn't force himself on women. Jack does bad things. There is a line most people will not cross. Jack doesn't care about that line, but he has drawn a line of his own line that he won't cross. Jack Sparrow is immoral in many ways, but someone who sets boundaries for themselves like Jack does is not someone with little regard for morality.
We are very much alike, you and I and you, us.
Oh, except for a sense of honour and decency and a moral centre.
Is Jack Sparrow irresponsible? He can be, but not for the reasons CT brought up. When CT mentions irresponsibility, they make reference to the money Jack owes to other pirates, and the deal he made with Davy Jones, and that little boat he stole from Anna Maria. Who? Yeah, don't worry about it. That little boat he made his triumphant entrance to Port Royal on. How he stole that. In regards to the owed money, if you're a pirate and you lend another pirate money, I think you'd understand you're likely not getting that back. Nobody at the Brethren Court even mentions money to Jack, and maybe Jack was just making a joke about how he owes them all money. One of the terms of phrase pirates in this universe hold dearly is take what you can and give nothing back.
Take what you can, give nothing back.
You know if you give Jack Sparrow money, he's not giving it back. As for the little boat he stole, yeah, he stole a boat. Borrow without asking. It was literally a piece of garbage that barely made it to the dock. And Jack did compensate the woman he stole it from. The deal with Davy Jones, then. Jones will resurrect the Black Pearl, pulling it from the depths for Jack to serve as his captain for 13 years. And once that time has lapsed, Jack will serve 100 years on the Flying Dutchman. I think that either speaks to Jack's love for the Black Pearl, that he'd sell his soul to the devil for it, or Jack kind of always thought he'd best Jones when the time came. If not irresponsible, then absolutely arrogant. When I think about Jack's irresponsibility, I think about how often he puts others' lives in danger. He knows his plans don't have a 100% success rate. He's arrogant in thinking he can play with people's lives like he does. CT suggests Jack doesn't want connection, that people with ASPD don't value relationships, that Jack has just enough desire for human connection. That isn't true. Jack wants connection, just like most people do, but he deprives himself of it. He's probably even afraid of it. A secondary function of Jack's false persona is to help him keep people at a distance. He has serious trust issues after his last crew mutinied against him and stole the Black Pearl. Jack doesn't extend his trust too easily nowadays. His default setting is to not trust you. You now really have to earn it. And even if you do, he's still not going to let you close to him, because he knows friendships, relationships, attachments, entanglements are things that can be taken advantage of by his enemies. And when we meet Jack in Curse of the Black Pearl, he means business. He's not coming back for 30%. He's coming back for everything.
He's wired in. Sorry? He's wired in. Is he? Yes.
Jack has empathy. He's always had empathy. He just doesn't want to be seen as someone with empathy. He wants to be seen as someone who is indifferent towards others. He'll camouflage his empathy by making it seem like he needs an incentive to help people, even if he really does want to help. He can't just be doing favors for people, no strings attached. What would the neighbors think?
Maybe just lock her up somewhere.
She is locked up in a prison, bound to hang for helping you.
There comes a time when one must take responsibility for one's mistakes.
Davy Jones does identify that Jack cares deeply for Will, and he uses it against him. This is another reason why Jack tries to act like he doesn't care about people. So people he cares for can't be used to hurt him. Jack wants to seem indifferent towards others so that his enemies can't hit him through that little chink in the armor. Do I think Jack cares about everyone and anyone? No, of course not. Jack couldn't care less about some drunken fool getting shot dead on a night out in Tortuga. Jack would continue on drinking. But special individuals like Will Turner, people with a strength of character, personality, people who earn Jack's trust. Jack can become attached to people. He can care for the well-being of others. He can care about fortunes other than his own.
Have you come because you need my help to save a certain distressing damsel? Or rather, damsel in distress? Either one.
Jack clearly grows very fond of both Will Turner and Elizabeth Swann. They're probably the closest things to friends he has. He truly cares about them and their well-being. Jack has a selfishness in him, yes, but it's not all-consuming. I believe Jack alters his plans in Dead Man's Chest for Will and Elizabeth. Instead of trying to end the game in a way that best suits him and his needs, he factors both of them into it. I truly believe he was fighting for the two of them all the way to the end, even after Elizabeth, killed him that one time.
Oh.
I'd argue he even respects her more for doing so. CT also says Jack doesn't help people. He doesn't feel responsible for other people. It's all about what he wants to get out of life. Again, a nasty generalization, leaving absolutely no wiggle room.
He lists off in rapid succession what he's all about.
Yeah.
And none of that is helping other people.
No.
Or behaving in a way that is at least responsible to other people.
Right.
It is literally all about what he wants to get out of life.
You have to just throw that out. We've seen Jack help people. We've seen him feel responsible for people. We've seen that it's not all about what he wants. CT says Jack tends to think, I don't care how this is going to affect other people. That he has a lack of remorse when he screws somebody over. Making reference to the scene where Jack sends Will over to be captured by Davy Jones, saying if it's his neck or Will's, it's just Will's.
If it's going to be his neck or Will's, it's just Will's.
Yeah.
They're just not paying attention to the intricacies in the story of Pirates 2 and 3. They are clearly assuming Jack sent Will over there like he's just some sucker he can get to do this job for him. No, there's greater purpose to it. Before Jack and Will are even reunited in Pirates 2, Jack learns that Will's father is alive, that he's enslaved to Davy Jones on the Flying Dutchman. Jack knows that. Jack wants Will to meet his father. He wants Will to see the conditions his father lives under. Jack wants to make Davy Jones an enemy of Will. Yes, there is a selfish side to that. We'll get into Jack's selfishness more in a bit. Jack wants Will in this game because he can be a valuable piece on the board. And Jack did send him over there with the hopes he'd be captured. Jack saying,
Send me back the boy, I'll get started right off.
all but assured Jones was going to keep him. So he wasn't just making a sucker out of Will. There was reason behind it. CT implies Jack thinks like the following.
Yeah, I'll do right by somebody as long as it doesn't cost me too greatly, or as long as I can get something out of it.
I don't think this applies to Jack. I mean, the first part of the sentence implies Jack would generally do right by just about anybody, if it didn't cost him too greatly. No. As we've established, if you're one of the few people Jack cares for, he will find a way to do right by you in the end. If you're not one of those few people, yeah, if he's doing right by you, there's probably an ulterior motive. CT says Jack is egocentric, that his worth is derived from personal gain, power, and pleasure. Selfish tendencies. I will agree that there is a selfishness to Jack Sparrow. He is generally selfish. But that doesn't mean he doesn't have the capacity to act selflessly. Again, let's go back to their point about Jack's mindset being, I'll do right by somebody as long as it doesn't cost me too greatly, or as long as I can get something out of it. Within the first 10 minutes of Pirates 1, that claim is shown to be untrue. A woman falls off a cliff ledge into the water below, Elizabeth, when Jack comes to the realization, if I don't help her, nobody else will. She is going to die. Jack weighs his options for about 5 seconds, but he chooses to jump into the water and pull her out. Can you say this act didn't cost Jack too greatly? No, it did cost him greatly, and he knew it would before he'd even jumped in the water. He knew the law would be shortly behind him, that he'd likely come out of the water surrounded by naval officers. But he did it anyway. He showed he can be selfless. And what exactly did he get out of that event? He got guns pointed in his face. That's what.
Pirate or not, this man saved my life.
One good deed is not enough to redeem a man of a lifetime of wickedness.
It seems enough to condemn him.
During the scene where Jack is about to get Will to stab Jones's heart, CT says, this is the moment for Jack. He's always done the selfish thing. Like, what is even going on? Did they even watch the movies properly, or did they just skim through a scene pack from YouTube? Again, first 10 minutes. Saves Elizabeth, gets arrested for it, immediately falsifies that statement. Now, about his worth being derived from personal gain, power, and pleasure, I don't know about that. I don't think Jack cares too much about riches. If he just had enough wealth to live his life how he wants, I think he would be happy with just that amount of wealth. Anything more than that, I really don't think he cares. Jack wants to be free to sail the seas forever. That's about it. And making port the odd time, enjoying a few drinks, and a few women.
What?
As far as power goes, Jack wants power over his own life, not power over others'. He wants power in the sense that he wants to be in control of his destiny. Jack doesn't want to feel like someone has power over him, but he doesn't care for having power over others. The only people he seeks power over are those who seek power over him. Anything other than that, it doesn't matter. As long as his crew treat him with respect, and respect the hierarchy aboard the Black Pearl, Jack is content. As far as pleasure goes, yeah, Jack wants to enjoy his life. He wants to have fun. He values pleasure. Standing at the helm of the Black Pearl, sailing towards an open horizon, with the sea breeze hitting his face. That's Jack's idea of pleasure. He indulges himself. Is that so wrong? Multiple movies have had Jack chasing some sort of means to attain immortality. Jack is so aware of how quickly a life can slip by. So, if he can't be immortal, he's damn well going to enjoy his time while he is alive.
Death has a curious way of reshuffling one's priorities.
CT says Jack values his crew, but doesn't care about them. I agree with this, but not because it aligns with ASPD, but because if you're Jack and your last crew, who you trusted, overthrew you as captain, made you walk your own plank, why would you assume your new crew wouldn't also do the same thing if the pot is sweetened just enough? Jack really keeps his subordinates at a distance, but not because of ASPD, but because he operates as if they could and would likely betray him if the deal is sweetened just enough for them. Maybe he's right for operating this way. Maybe it's unfair, but it's rational and it's justified.
Bloody fair deal, don't you think?
CT makes reference to Jack's manipulation and deceitfulness, but they speak as if they are aspects of his personality, not in his control, as if it's just his nature, not that they're tools he uses, like what I would suggest. Like myself, they also suggest that Jack does play a role, that he puts on a performance, but they suggest the purpose of this role is simply to appear more charming, so that he can better hide the obvious traits of his ASPD. They simply do not understand Jack Sparrow as a character. They laugh at Jack manipulating those two goofy officers in Pirates 1, but he'd probably do the same to them.
Incredible performance from Johnny Depp. Those two guys don't get enough credit because you can't sell.
Unfortunately, Disney thinks Jack Sparrow is the fake persona. Flamboyant, eccentric, doesn't take things too seriously. In Pirates 5, you never get the impression that Jack is putting on a performance, and it would be one thing if Jack dropped the act and behaved as his true self. That might actually be interesting. But Disney seems to think there never was an act. They took his words, his actions, too literally. Disney seems to think Jack Sparrow is an idiot, a complete goofball, that his successes were accomplished not by his own volition, but by sheer dumb luck and circumstance. Now, let's get into some of CT's sillier comments about Jack. CT says Jack saving Will's life in Pirates 3, giving up his chance at immortality in the process, was not entirely selfless, because he's looking for glory. 1. Nothing is entirely selfless. If someone does something that is 95% out of selflessness and 5% out of selfishness, you can still say they're not entirely selfless. And that phrasing is designed to make someone sound worse than they are. As far as I'm concerned, hypothetically, if 95% of Jack's decision to save Will was selfless, and 5% of it was selfish, that he was looking for glory, I'd say that's still selfless. Saying he's looking for glory, though, implies that had to have been actively in his mind in those moments prior. And oh my god, they just weren't. Jack probably basked in the glory of saving Will after the war had ended. But in those few moments, Jack was just scared. He was going to lose his friend. CT says the only thing that works with Jack Sparrow are baser instincts, whatever that means, referring to praise and adulation in this case. That he's never really considered doing the right thing. This is like halfway through Dead Man's Chest, by the way, when they're saying this. Again, the statement,
he's never really considered doing the right thing,
immediately nullified within 10 minutes of Pirates 1. They also suggest that when Jack came back to help his crew fend off the Kraken, it was because...
well, he was half hoping that he could hook up with her if he did the heroic thing.
Referring to Elizabeth, that he chose to come back to help his crew and likely die with his crew because he wanted some action. My interpretation of that was that Jack was scared. In one moment, he thought he had the required leverage against Davy Jones. Jack felt safe, that he now has Jones under his thumb. When the realization hits him that he in fact does not have any leverage, and Jones has released the Kraken on him, on the Black Pearl, Jack thinks everything is over, that he's lost. This wasn't part of the plan. We've established there's a selfishness to Jack. He has this almost primal direction to get himself out of there. I said earlier that I disagreed with CT calling Jack impulsive, because in general, I don't consider him impulsive. But everyone falls to impulse from time to time. Jack made the wrong decision, the objectively wrong decision. In a moment of impulsivity, under extreme stress, everything he had been working for has come to this. His world is crumbling around him, and he flees. That moment of epiphany in the escape boat was not that he realized he'd never get to sleep with Elizabeth if she and the rest of the crew were killed by the Kraken. In that moment, he's just thinking, what am I doing? What am I doing? He has a moment of clarity where he realizes what an awful thing he's just done. He looks down at his compass, and the thing he wants most in this world is not the safety of dry land, but to rectify his wrongdoing, even if that means dying. I don't think he's looking for glory either. Sure, he doesn't allow Elizabeth to take the shot at the powder kegs, but it's not because he wants the glory of coming back and being everyone's savior. As we've established, Jack is very confident in his abilities. Elizabeth probably would have missed had she taken the shot. She was about as composed as an egg frying in a house fire.
Jack, the letter's given back.
No.
CT says that Will in Pirates 3 absolutely hates him. Will does not hate Jack in Pirates 3. I'm sure Will doesn't enjoy being played with. I think Will is probably the most aware of all the characters in the film that Jack is manipulating them. He knows Jack is up to something, he just doesn't know exactly what. Right up until Jack's plan becomes clear on its own, as it's playing out in real time. Yeah, I'm pretty certain Will literally says, I hate him, at some point in Pirates 3, but he utters it to himself, after Jack had just pushed him overboard that pearl, if I recall correctly. There's a bit of playfulness to the way he says it even. We can't just take words literally. When Will corrects Beckett and stipulates that he is not friends with Jack Sparrow, that they're more acquaintances, do you take that literally? Or do you think, well, Will's probably just saying that for optics. Probably best to not too deeply associate yourself with the likes of pirates. Sure, I might agree Jack cares for Will more than Will cares for Jack. You know what, I actually do agree with that, if you're asking. Will probably finds Jack to be challenging company a lot of the time, but he respects Jack. He knows if Jack has just pushed him off the Black Pearl along with his compass, it was for a reason. Will even later hides the fact that Jack even did that, pretending Jack had no involvement in Will and Beckett's negotiations. It's an extremely turbulent time for all the characters. There was a lot of arguing, shouting, physical violence. It was tense, and Jack put Will through a lot. He demanded a lot from him. But I don't think Will ever once complained. He knows Jack wasn't putting him through all that out of hatred, that there was a greater reason for it. So how could he reciprocate with hate when he knew there was no hate on the receiving end to begin with?
So I'm to understand what you did was an act of compassion? Yes.
CT also suggests that Jack's motivation for wanting to take over as the captain of the Flying Dutchman is because Jack was thinking, everybody hates me. Not that Jack has such an intense fear of death, of growing old and dying, that he might just grasp at any opportunity he has to avoid or postpone that fate. For the record, I think the terms of captaining the Dutchman are too steep, and I pity Will Turner for having to abide by those terms. I'm not sure if Jack would have even stabbed the heart had he time to really think it over. Regardless, the notion that he wanted to condemn himself to that life because he felt everyone hated him, that he'd do it more as an act of rebellion, almost as if he were a 6-year-old child drawing on the walls with magic marker because his parents didn't let him have any chocolate after he didn't finish his broccoli. I don't know where CT got that idea from. I've said before that Jack Sparrow in Pirates 5 feels like Jack Sparrow if he were written by the guys at Cinema Therapy. As more and more of the talent from Pirates 1, 2, and 3 began to leave, Disney gradually let Jack Sparrow slip between their fingers. They just about kept him together for Pirates 4, but by the time we got to Pirates 5, he was unrecognizable. He simply was not the same character, this being the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie to have had someone other than Ted Elliott and or Terry Rossio writing the screenplay. The screenplay was written by Jeff Nathanson, who's worked on some good movies, and some bad ones. Oh look, he's got a story credit on an Indiana Jones movie. Oh.
No shame in that, dear. I mean, we all have to earn a living, eh? Wasn't it?
I believe Rossio has a story credit on Pirates 5, which could mean anything. For all we know, that means he hopped on a Skype meeting with Jeff Nathanson for 30 minutes at some point. Who knows? And it seems like Elliot was practically uninvolved, just getting a based on characters by credit, which really could mean he didn't do a thing on Pirates 5. That Disney was just contractually obligated to credit him based on his prior work in the franchise. Not to sing the praises of Elliot and Rossio too much, they both have some train wrecks on their resume. And same goes for Gore Verbinski, the director of Pirates 1, 2, and 3. Plenty of low quality work. Honestly, it's astonishing going through their IMDb's. You wouldn't think any of them were capable of making something akin to the quality of Pirates 1, 2, or 3. And to have created a character like Jack Sparrow, but somehow, when the three of them worked together, they did it. And as they each left the franchise one by one, Jack Sparrow's character began to deteriorate rapidly. By the time we got to Pirates 5, it became clear that the folks over at Disney never understood why people liked Jack Sparrow. So of course, they were oblivious when they hired a writer who also didn't understand Jack Sparrow. If anyone at Disney really understood Jack Sparrow, Pirates 5 would have been Batgirled. They would have gathered up all the hard drives and stuck them down in the vault next to Walt Disney. Disney's take on Jack Sparrow, based on Pirates 5, is that Jack Sparrow is a clumsy idiot, an absolute goofball. They are now portraying him as lucky, instead of the extremely methodical strategist he once was.
But the other character that's been most consistent, of course, is Jack the monkey.
Oh, that's a good boy. You're daddy's boy.
Jack is front and center in Pirates 5, but for the first time, he's not playing his usual role in the story. He's not serving the same functionality. Jack has always been the puppet master of the Pirates universe, the grand architect, manipulating others into doing what he wants. In Pirates 5, Jack has gone from character to object. He is simply a man the film's antagonist wants to kill. Jack does hardly anything to help defeat Salazar. Barbossa does most of the heavy lifting, and he's actually taking on some of Jack's previous functionality. Barbossa is the one doing the manipulating here. He's more of a puppet master than Jack in this one. I don't think Jack shows a single inkling of foresight throughout the movie. He just gets dragged along through the plot. He doesn't have a plan of any sort. He's just this pathetic, tag-along character there for comedic relief. Think about this. In every other Pirates of the Caribbean movie, The villain has wanted something, whether it was a tangible item or just a goal. And Jack was an obstacle for the villain, even a competitor. In Pirates 5, they make Jack the object of the story. It provided an excuse to have him do nothing in the story, and just to have him in the movie and be able to say, "Ooh, look, it's Jack Sparrow, guys. You like him, right?" Maybe Disney knew Johnny Depp was in rough shape at the time, and they thought he probably couldn't deliver a proper Jack Sparrow performance. So they got ahead of it and gave him the least intensive acting material to work with. I don't know. Maybe they wanted another Pirates of the Caribbean movie, and knowing the audience wanted Jack Sparrow, they dumbed down the whole movie to accommodate Johnny Depp's real-life situation. Anyway, I could discuss Jack's horrible portrayal in Pirates 5 for an hour, but I won't because who cares? Just ignore it. Just try and forget it, really. That's about everything. Until you next find yourselves around my table.